solving equations, okay, what goes with addition? Subtraction, right? We know that. I know you guys know that, right? What about multiplication? Division. Okay, with squareds, okay, and I'm going to use an x in this case. What goes with squareds?
Roots.
Square roots. Okay, and there's different kinds. Okay, a square root, very more specifically, has a 2. Okay, so roots and square roots are different. So have you ever seen one that looks like this? I know you guys have, but when there's like a baby 3 there, then that's a cubed root. Okay, and so on calculators, oftentimes you're going to see something like this with a blank, or maybe it has an n out there. That means a different number of roots. So when we do like this, a squared, we say square roots go with that because there's a magic 2 on the outside. Okay, and so on all of these, we have to first get x all by itself, and then you could do the root process. Okay, and so on the very first few, you're going to already have it by itself. By that, I mean there's not a number in front of it, or there's not an addition or subtraction sign. Okay, and so all we really have to do, and I'm going to write it down here because it's really small on my page. So we know that x is by itself. By that, I mean there's not like a +5 here or an 81 out front. Okay, if there is, those things need to get moved first. But in this case, it's just the letter in the number, or in the squared, and so it's ready to be square rooted. Okay, and so all we gotta do is, we have this problem here, we're gonna square root. If we do something to one side, what is the golden rule?
You gotta do it to the other.
You gotta do it to the other side. Okay, and so we square root it to this side. And what happens is that there's a magic 2 here, right? Right, we know that there's a magic 2 there. And so these 2's and the house get canceled. That was the whole point of doing that square root, to cancel that baby 2. And so all you're left with is just the x equals, and we say, well, what is the square root of 1? 1. That's it. Okay, so look at 3. Is there anything else with the n squared?
No.
No, and so it's already ready to be square rooted. So we got n squared equals 81, and so we can square root both sides. Okay, and so the house and that 2 cancel. Okay, and so you're left with n on this side. What is the square root of 81? 9. Okay, here's the biggest mistake kids make. You want to know? Because I know some of you guys will do it. You do this. Right now, actually, the answer is n equals 9, right? Kids do this and they leave the square root back on there. Well, now you're saying square root the 9 again, and then you're going to have square root of 3. And then you try to square root the 3 again. So, once you square root it, the house is gone. Okay?
So the problem is done after you square root.
Huh?
The problem is done after you do it.
The problem is done after you square root it. Square rooting is always going to be your last step. So on some of these, it's going to go up a little bit, and you're going to have other things to move. So 5 is the x squared by itself. Huh? Yeah, so square root, square root. Okay, so on this side, we have just x left. What's the square root of 4?
2.
2. Okay, look at 7. Is the x by itself? Yeah, so we're ready to square root. So square root, square root. So you're just left with x equals, what's the square root of 100?
10.
10. 10 times 10 is 100.
I knew that.
Okay, look at 9. Is the x squared by itself? No. And so we need to move that first. So how do you move something that's right next to each other? Divide. Okay, when something's right next to each other, that means multiply. Okay, so you got to divide first.
Divide by what?
25. So you got x squared equals, and this was not a good problem to start off with, I'm just letting you know right now, so just bear with me. So we got 49 over 25. Now, is the x squared by itself?
Yeah, it is now.
Yeah, it is now. So now we can square root it. Now, normally I would have a fraction that would like divide really easy, but if you do 49 over 25 in your calculator, you're still gonna get 49 over 25, meaning it does not simplify. Okay, but you still can square root it. Okay, so what are you left with on the left side? X. On the right side, now I just want you to think, even though it looks complicated, it's not. What's the square root of 49?
Oh, shit.
So a square root of 49 is 7. What's the square root of 25? 5.
That's it.
What, mention, I got a question. Cause, isn't 7 over 5 equal to 49 over 25 then? So if you're square rooting it, aren't you just simplifying it?
Yeah.
Pretty much. But, so square rooting is kind of, so if you think about 100, right, and we square root it, it's 10. You could go on the flip side of that and use your brain and say, well, what's going to get me to 100? 10 times 10. And so they're opposites, but they're not. And so it's a very complex answer, if that makes any sense. So I don't want to necessarily say, but because you do have to square root that. Okay, look at 11. Is the A by itself? No, so what needs moved first? Trey, get off your dang phone. The 9, how do I move that minus 9? Plus 9. Okay, if we do it to one side.
You do it to other.
Okay, so I got A squared equals, what's 27 plus 9?
36.
36. Okay, and are we ready to square root it?
Yes.
Yeah, why?
Because there's none left with it.
There's nothing left with the A. Okay, so what are we going to be left with on the left side? A, left side.
Oh,
A, and the right side? 6.
A equals 6.
Okay, look at 13. Is the B squared by itself?
Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
Coming in.
Yes. No.
No.
What?
What are y'all looking at?
Yes.
You said it should be by itself.
It's B squared by itself.
There's nothing else on B's side.
No,
There's a 9.
The 9. Then B's not by itself.
Wait, wow.
Okay, so when we look on the left side of that equal sign, it should just be x squared, a squared, b squared. Okay, if there's anything else on his side, they got to go. Okay, so it's not. So what do we need to do? Minus 9 from both sides. So I got b squared equals 16. Now is the b by itself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and so we can do what? Square root it. Square root it. So I got b equals, no, 4.
Wow.
Look at 15.
I thought it's 16 divided by 2.
No, it's not. And so that's where people get messed up with square roots. They think of division, and it's not actually division.
So how do you get 4?
4.
You have to look on the flip side what is something times itself to give you 16.
Shit.
Okay, so 15, is the n squared by itself? No, what needs to happen?
We need minus that.
Not minus, what's it mean if it's right next to it? Yeah, so we gotta divide. Divide by 64, divide by 64. So I got n squared equals 16 over 64. Anytime you get a fraction, just leave it as a fraction, okay? You're better off than trying to use your calculator to simplify. Okay, and so now, are we ready to square root? Yeah, and so you can square root both sides. So I'm going to have n equals, what is the square root of 16? 4 over square root of 64? 8. Okay, can 4 over 8 be simplified?
Yeah.
To what?
2 over 4.
1/2, okay? You don't have to. You can leave it just like that, okay? I just want to make sure that you know what you're supposed to do, but... Okay, look at 17. What needs moved? The 9. How do I move it? Divide by 9. Divide by 9. So I got x squared equals 1 over 9. Now what?
Yes.
Square root it. So I got x equals, what's the square root of 1? Who is it? Finish that one. Hello? No, he got on Zoom. He said that he's having stomach problems today, so he's staying home. Oh, okay. I didn't ask him if he was quarantined, so I just. Okay. Okay. Sorry, buddy. I tried.
X equals 1 over 3.
Huh?
X equals 1 over 3.
1 over 3. Perfect. Okay, last one. Look at 19. What needs moved? The 5. So plus 5, plus 5. So I got n squared equals 36. And we can square root. So I got n equals, what's the square root of 36? 6. Told you, piece of cake.
That's
Huh?
what I was thinking.
I think so. I got the sheet already. But. Okay, the rest is for you to